Welcome back. In this lesson, we're going to talk about getting unstuck. A big aspect of BodyMind IntelliSense transformation system is helping you move your way along this health, wellness, and vitality journey. And if at any point you're feeling stuck, or if you start out feeling stuck, the goal is to help support you, motivate you, and get you going in the right direction. One thing I can tell you is that after having worked with hundreds of people over the last couple of decades in their health, wellness, and vitality journey, everyone gets stuck. It's just the way it is. I've gotten stuck. I'm sure that there are moments when you've gotten stuck. So what I'd like you to do for just a moment, and you can pause the video if you need to, is think about a time in your life, it can be now, it could be in the past, where you have felt stuck, where you have felt lonely, isolated, frustrated, physically overwhelmed, anxious, any of those things. Do any of those ideas resonate with you? So take a moment, pull it up, and if you need to, be vulnerable with yourself to come up with when that moment might be. And then just hang on to that, and we'll get to that a little bit further down. But for now, what I want to do is share with you my story about getting stuck, if that's okay with you. This happened about a decade ago, and at the time I was working part-time as a massage therapist at Google. I was teaching meditation there. It seemed like the world's most perfect job. I had a great relationship with my husband. Everything was going well, but my stress levels were through the roof. Now, I did what a lot of people do, and I'm like, just kidding. That's not really happening, and I would shove it away, which of course is not at all resolving the problem or fixing the problem or moving forward and embracing the problem. I just kept getting more and more stressed out. And the way that manifested in my body is I started getting more and more tired. It got to the point where I was no longer sleeping well at all, and I would wake up in the mornings feeling like I had been hit by a truck. I'd wake up, my hands would hurt, my elbows would hurt, which is never the way you want to start your day when you're a massage therapist and you've got to go into 6 hours of massage today, tomorrow, and the next day. But boy, I tell you, I was in total denial of anything going wrong. I completely ignored it. How many of you have felt like you've just wanted to ignore being stuck? I bet all of you have at one point or another. It's really a human thing to do. And so not only was I physically exhausted and achy, my brain started slowing down. I was unable to string multiple sentences together in the evening to have a conversation with anybody. If I was playing games, there was no way in the world they could rely on me to do the math to keep score. It just wasn't going to happen. And then there was a long weekend when my family came to visit, and I love being a good hostess. And I remember being absolutely exhausted, and I said to my family, look, here's the deal. Thanks for coming to visit, but if I need to, I'm going to go take a nap. And by the way, y'all can clean up after yourself after dinner because I can't do it. I'm just too tired. We all had a good enough time, but as they left, then my husband said to me, honey, I've known you for a number of years now, and I've never seen you like this. There's something really, really wrong with you. You need to take the rest of the week off and go to the doctor and figure out what's going on. And I was like, no way. I can't take the rest of the week off work. That's not what responsible people do. That certainly wasn't the way I was raised. And as I was growing up, there was no way in the world that my father would let any of us be sick. And so now as an adult, there's no way I could be sick. Surely I could continue to push through. I have to be productive. I have to give it my all. I can't afford to be sick. Unfortunately, my husband said, no, you can. Something's wrong with you. You got to go figure it out. Can you relate to this? Have you ever been in this situation before where you weren't even aware that you were beginning to fall apart and you required a loved one to come tap you on the shoulder and say, I think you're not doing so great. Or have you ever been in a situation where you were lucky enough to figure it out and then still go, nah, I'm just going to push through anyway? But the thing is, what I realized for myself is I was just running an old tape in my head. I didn't have to be so productive. I didn't have to live up to my father's expectation of perfect health. I didn't have to live up to my perceived expectation of my boss's wishes. And I had to realize that the world would not stop just because I took off time to get well. So I realized it was time to take care of me. I realized that I wanted to be healthy, I wanted to be well, and I wanted my vitality back. So I began to implement those 3 steps I mentioned before. The first one being self-care. So for me, what self-care meant was that I actually found a doctor who would listen to me. And she knew that what I was experiencing was out of her scope of practice, referred me out to another specialist. And long story short, between the two of them and between a handful of testing, we figured out what was going on with me. And I'm here to tell you that when you first start that journey on creating change, you might run into resistance. And when you do run into resistance, lean into self-acceptance and self-appreciation. Remember what you really like about you. Remember times that were joyful and productive for you. So as I was working with these doctors, and it turns out in my case, I ended up taking quite a bit of time off work in order to get well. The one thing that I didn't mention that was, I think, the big instigator for me was that I lived a long way away from where I worked. And so half the week I would spend my work days down in the Seattle area with friends, and half the week I was home. And for me, that fractured sense of place was part of what contributed to wearing me down. So I took time off and I made sure that I did something every day that filled my spirit and my soul and my body and my mind with joy. And it's going to be different for everybody. But to me, self-care is figuring out what lights you up. It's figuring out what brings you joy. And for me, that was taking my dog for walks on the beach. We had a brand new puppy, and she was such a great companion for me. As you go through this program, we're going to move through a mudra series. I created that mudra series when I was really sick because I needed it for me. I needed to lean back into self-compassion. I needed to lean back into quieting my mind and being willing to be rather than do all of the time. So again, this entire program, this entire system takes the lessons that I've learned throughout my life and wraps them up into bite-sized lessons so that you can implement them in your own life. So, all right, I'm moving into self-care, and that was really a wonderful place to start. Then the next thing I had to do was figure out what I wanted. I couldn't go back to living the life that I was living and know that anything would change. I had to come up with different parameters. Now, again, it was the world's best job as a massage therapist that anybody could ever ask for. But what I realized is it wasn't sustainable. So the second piece of what we're going to talk about to get unstuck is that idea of having a clear focus, having a clear goal, having a clear dream. And I thought about that a lot as I was taking time to get well. What did I want? What did I want to have change? And what I realized was that I needed to live in one space. In the long run, being in 2 places just wasn't going to work for me. I had to be home. I love my home. I live in a really, really beautiful place, a beautiful part of the country. And it just lights me up when I look out my windows and see where I live. I have great neighbors. I have beautiful views. And this is where I wanted to be. And so I had to start coming up with, well, how can I modify what I'm doing to be able to be at home? So the clear goal was wanting to be at home. One of the things I'd realized after working at Google for 13 years was that a lot of people wanted to figure out how to manage their stress. They were coming to me as a massage therapist, but they wanted, and I wanted for them, to know how to manage their stress on their own. So I'm like, okay, why don't I start teaching about this stuff? Why don't I start giving people the tools that they can use to manage the stress in their own lives? So as I was managing the stress in my life, I'm building this dream of what I wanted to have happen, which was no longer commute to Seattle, which was a 2.5 hour drive away, no longer spend my time purely helping people through massage, which was wreaking havoc on my own body. I wanted to figure out a way to put some tools into the hands of the people so that they could learn how to heal themselves. So that was this big aha around gaining clarity, having a dream, and figuring it out. Now, the third step I mentioned at the beginning of this conversation was having a timeline or being timely about it. Now, sometimes having deadlines can feel pretty stressful. And some stress is okay. You don't want to overdo the stress, but a little bit of stress keeps us on edge. It keeps us going. It keeps us motivated. It lights us up. So I thought about it and figured out an exit strategy. And in my case, my exit strategy took about 13 months. I knew exactly how I wanted to set ourselves up financially. I knew how I wanted to plan my departure based on, annual bonus cycles and so on and so forth. And everybody has different timelines they need to meet. So if you are thinking of leaving one career and moving into another one, I would love to work with you on that. I've loved that transition, and I've helped a number of people doing that. If your desire for change, if your goal is something different, that's totally great. But whatever it is you decide you want to do, have some sort of a timeline there. And it can be a couple of months. It can be in a quarter. It can be in half a year. It can be over a year like mine was, but continue moving forward. And that having that goal and having that timeline and breaking it out into functional, actionable steps while practicing self-care, those are all such fantastic ways to help you get unstuck. So as we move through this BodyMind IntelliSense program, we're going to talk about a lot of those different things. Ultimately, as we wrap up this lesson, what I want to encourage you to do is have faith. If you are feeling stuck, if you were feeling stuck, this is a wonderful program to help you move into that space where you're living your dreams. You're figuring out your dreams and goals. You're figuring out tools to help you approach those goals and dreams. And so I look forward to helping you and talking with you and engaging with you as we move forward in all of these lessons. And so I wish you the best for today. Thanks for taking the time. Take care. Bye-bye.